Hi, this is Dr. Karnik with New Ed Science Academy. Our session today is in chemistry. This session is for middle school and high school students who are taking on-level chemistry, honors chemistry, and AP chemistry. Today's session is going to be on moles. Students will be coming across this concept across all disciplines of chemistry. It is the basic foundation that they will be working on whenever they'll be solving any chemical calculations across different concepts in chemistry. So let's try to understand what is a mole. A mole is a term used by chemists to determine the quantity or the amount of particular substance. Now, in our day-to-day lives, we also come up with certain terms. For example, we use a term called a dozen, and a dozen signifies number 12. So 1 dozen is 12 number of that particular things. So 1 dozen eggs is 12 eggs. 1 dozen cupcakes is 12 cupcakes. 1 dozen apples is 12 apples. Similarly, chemists use the concept of mole, and 1 mole of anything is 6.023 times 10 to the 23rd number of that particular thing. Similar to dozen, 1 dozen of anything is always 12 number of that particular thing we are looking at. Here, 1 mole of anything is this big number. As you can see, it's a big number of that particular thing that they are looking at. This number is also called as Avogadro's number, and it is named after the scientist Avogadro. So let's look into how chemists apply this concept of mole across various concepts in chemistry. So 1 mole of hydrogen equals 6.023 times 10 to the 23rd hydrogen atoms. Same is the concept for potassium. Well, for nitrogen as well, you will see 6.023 times 10 to the 23rd nitrogen atoms is 1 mole of nitrogen. You can use the same concept for silver. And you know what? Go to the periodic table and pick out any element from the periodic table. And 1 mole of that element is always going to be equal to 6.023 times 10 to the 23rd number of atoms of that particular element. Now, as you know, in chemistry, we don't just tackle atoms. We also work with molecules and compounds. Now, as you know, molecules are 2 or more atoms put together, and they could be the same type of atoms, or they could be different types of atoms. And molecules that have 2 or more different type of atoms are also called compounds. So let's see how this concept of mole applies to molecules or compounds. So let's look at an oxygen molecule, which is made up of 2 oxygen together to form 1 molecule of oxygen, right? So 1 mole of oxygen molecule equals these many number of oxygen molecules put together. Okay, same is the concept. Same concept is applied for carbon dioxide molecule. 1 mole of carbon dioxide equals 6.023 times 10 to the 23rd number of carbon dioxide molecules. So as you can see, the same concept is true for the conversion of mole to molecules. And it could be a very simple molecule, or it could be a very complicated molecule. 1 mole of anything is Avogadro number of that particular thing that we are looking at. So let's summarize this all together. 1 mole of atom is 6.023 times 10 to the 23rd atoms. Well, I'm looking at molecules. Guess what? Same concept is applicable. If you're looking at any kind of compound, however complex that compound might be, the same concept applies. And let's say I'm tired of these elements from the periodic table. I want to look at marbles and I want 1 mole of marble or 1 mole of sand particles. Well, as soon as I use the term mole, it is going to equate to 6.023 times 10 to the 23rd Avogadro's number of that particular thing that we are looking at. Now that we know this relationship between the number of particles and mole, let's look into what type of questions get asked on your exams. So, one type of question is, how many atoms are in 32.5 moles of sodium? So whenever you're solving any kind of chemistry questions, it's always a good practice to start with what is given and which direction do you want to get your thought process. So in this case, I see that they are giving me the number of moles of sodium and they are asking me the number of atoms of sodium. So my first step would be to put down what is given and which direction am I going to. So as you can see, I'm starting with moles and I'm going to the direction of atoms. Now I'm going to put, what do I know? I know that 1 mole of anything, and in this case it is sodium, equals this many number of sodium atoms. They are giving me 32.5 moles. So 32.5 moles of sodium equals how many sodium atoms? As you can see, these 2 steps are very simple mathematical problems, right? The ones that you've been solving since 5th grade. So you will solve for the number of sodium atoms and the answer is going to be 195.74 times 10 to the 23rd sodium atoms. So you would want to convert all these questions that you would get in simple mathematical form, which becomes very easy to understand and solve. So let's look into, instead of atoms, let's go to molecules. So how many molecules are in 9.02 moles of water? Now again, we will go with the same thought process. They're giving us moles and asking us molecules. So moles to molecules. We know the conversion. We know how much moles they are giving and how many number of molecules they're asking. We do the math and we know that the number of molecules are going to be 54.327 times 10 to the 23rd molecules of water in 9.02 moles. The other type of questions that they ask on your exams are by flipping these concepts. So in those questions, they would give you the molecules and they will ask you the moles. So let's try to solve a question like that. How many moles are in 13.02 times 10 to the 23rd molecules of C6H12O6? Well, we are going to follow the same pathway. We are going to first start with what is given and which direction do we want to have our thought process. So in this case, as you can see, the molecules are given and we have to find the number of moles. So we will start with molecules, go to moles, and now let's start with how many molecules equal how many moles. So these many molecules of anything, in this case it's C6H12O6, equals 1 mole. So now instead of this number of molecules, they are giving us 13.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Again, it's a simple math problem and our answer is going to be, after the calculations, it's going to be 2.16 moles of C6H12O6. So this is the way to answer. This is like an easy step-by-step path to answer these questions and actually understand the concept of the conversion of moles to particles. Now that we have gone over this concept, I want you guys to lock down that concept by solving these 2 questions that I'm giving you. I would really appreciate if you would solve these questions, and please make sure to write down the answer in the comment section. And we would also love to get some feedback from you. In our next session, we will be going over concept of mole in terms of weight of different things. And we are going to see how does this mole equate to grams of different types of things in chemistry. So I'm looking forward to getting a feedback from you guys and your answers, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in our next session. Thank you.